Peace be upon you, friends. With you is your friend Darum. I ask you to support the channel by subscribing, liking, and posting motivating comments and an enjoyable viewing experience for you. Amar threw the empty bag of figs at me and said, "Goodbye." I headed to the village on foot and made sure to pass by the house of the man who accompanied me to Amar's house to thank him and bid him farewell, because his reception was very nice and he helped me more than once. After I said goodbye to him, the man directed me to the home of a person who took me to the airport, and from there I returned to my country on the first flight. Return Dijen. I arrived at my city's airport at midnight. The airport was quiet. I took a taxi. I headed home. I entered. I went directly to my room and slept. I did not meet anyone that day. I woke up at noon the next day, and I was very tired. I opened my eyes and saw a disturbing sight in front of me. I saw Jin sitting in front of me, and he was taking the form of this strange man. I got up and went to the bathroom and tried not to pay attention to him, because I remember that Amar had told me before that demons are weak before those who are not afraid of them or afraid to see them. I entered the bathroom and did not care about the presence of Dajan, even though seeing his face after this period brought back memories that I had never seen before. I didn't want to remember it. Dajan is one of the few demons who has the audacity to pose with the ease of conversation, a person without affectation in broad daylight. His language is Arabic, but his accent was a strange mixture of local dialects. After I came out of the bathroom, Dayan said to me, "Bliss." At that moment I forgot that he was a devil, and I said to him, "What do you want? And who allowed you to enter?" He said, "We have an agreement." I told him while I was changing my clothes, "What is required of me now?" He said, "I consider the topic of your partner to be finished, and the topic will not take me a few seconds and I will link it to you. But why did we talk about the new agreement?" I said, "What agreement?" Then he said, "There is another devil remaining. What do you want me to save you from?" I said to him, "What devil are you talking about?" He said, "The one sitting on top of your poor mother's head eats from her health every day and is just waiting for a sign from the magician to kill her." I was silent for a while and then said, "Isn't it Mykin who threatens my mother's life?" He said, "No, my love, your mother has been sent by a second devil and your companion has other concerns, and it is not enough for you and your mother." I told him, "Get rid of him too." He said while smiling, "Sorry, the agreement was only on one person." I realized at that time that Dajan intended to stay with me in any way and would cause problems to ensure that he remained around me and that I would not freeze him after he finished his mission. It seemed that he wanted to make his fate dependent on my fate because that was the only guarantee he had to remain free. I tried to elude him as he was eluding me, so I said to him, "What do you mean, just one?" He said, "Choose only one devil, your companion or the one sent to your mother." I did not think much and gave him the order to deal with the devil threatening my mother until I thought of a solution to deal with him and my freed comrade. Dajan disappeared in a second after I gave him permission to get rid of my mother's demon instead of my horn, and minutes later he returned with that damned smile on his face and said, "It's over." Before I could ask him about what he had done in detail, something pounced on him, and Jan began to fight with him fiercely. This conflict caused complete chaos in my room, which forced me to resort to the bathroom to escape the chaos that had spread in my room. I locked the bathroom door and sat listening to the screaming and loud wailing, which was coming from the room, and after a few minutes the sound stopped and silence spread throughout the place. Suddenly, the bathroom door began to shake due to strong and repeated hitting on the door. Then the beating stopped and the screaming and wailing returned inside the room in a more intense manner. Fortunately, my father and brother were not at home at that time. When the sound stopped completely, I went out, dragging my steps through the silence of the room that had been turned upside down. I looked around and found no sign of John, but shortly after that, I heard John's exhausted voice saying with bated breath, "This husband of yours is a damned man, and I tied him to you at my expense this time, and from today you will be mine forever." I stayed with Dajan after the Al Qurain incident for a while. We would meet whenever he wanted, and he would try every time to strike fear into my heart. But I no longer cared or was affected by his movements because I had begun to get used to them. Dajan said to me one day, "Don't you fear that I will kill you at any moment?" I replied to him and said, "And you, aren't you afraid that I will pronounce your name and paralyze you at any moment?" Dajan got angry and screamed like an animal scream and said, "You are my slave." I said to him, "I am a servant of God alone, and you are nothing but one of his creations." He pushed me to the far end of the room, and I hit the wall and lost consciousness. Some might wonder why I didn't say his name at that moment. Honestly, I wanted to test myself with him, because at that time I was tired of fear and tired of hiding. I wanted to break my fear with him and others, and this is what happened to me later. I was not surprised that Jinn did not kill me, as he wanted a human to serve him, even though I was not a magician, because this is often the role of magicians with demons. So he wanted to enslave me like other magicians to take revenge on me for what I had done to him in the past, and to mock me to facilitate his desires in the future. Dajan continued to terrorize and harm me for more than a month. I was mentally patient, but I started to get tired physically. After a period of more than a month since his first appearance to me after my return from Amar, he appeared to me one night and said, "And the end with you?" I answered spontaneously because I was asleep and said, "Hello, John?" I did not hear a sound or response, so I went straight back to sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I remembered what happened yesterday and realized that I had frozen it again. I waited quietly for the evening, brought the mirror, and prepared it again. Dajan did not attack me after the preparation, and I did not hear from him for several days until I thought that the preparation had not succeeded. So I brought the mirror and tried to prepare it again, but I heard a voice coming from behind me saying, "Stop." "I am here," I said coldly. "Good." I was getting ready for sleep when I realized that I had freed him again. He started talking to me in surprise and said, "Why did you bring me back? What do you want from me?" I told him, "I don't want anything from you." He said, "Why did you free me?" I said to him, "Because I am not afraid of you." He said, "What is the purpose of what you are trying to do?" I said to him, "To prove to you that I am not a slave to you or to my fear." So he remained silent and left. Then he became Jinn again, laughing, taking the form of that strange man. He used to talk to me a lot, even if I was talking to someone else. I felt that he wanted to communicate with me more and more, and I did not know the reason for this sudden closeness, but I was not interacting with him a lot, and I often ignored him. When I felt that it no longer frightened me, but on the contrary, it began to bother me, I decided to freeze it forever. On the day I decided to freeze Dajan, he was, as usual, talking about many things at the same time, and I too, as usual with him, was not concentrating on his words or listening to him, and during his words flying in the air without listening ears, I decided within myself to pronounce his name because I felt that his presence was no longer serving me. My need for him ended with the return of my kinsman and the death of the devil, who was threatening my mother, as well as to avoid any recklessness on his part, as in the end, he remains a devil whose intentions are unknown. I decided not to introduce the topic and say his name while he suddenly spoke to me. From him talking about a topic that I was not interested in, I listened to him at first, but when I approached him, I heard something in his words that made me say to him, "Repeat what I said a moment ago." He said, "I was telling you that Amar was sending a powerful demon to your mother during those days, but he was young and did not take much time with me." I said in an angry tone, "Amar?" He said, "Yes, Amar." "What's wrong with you?" I said with calm anger. "Are you sure that Amar was the one who sent Satan to my mother and was the one who asked him to harm her?" He said, "Yes, I'm sure," I said to him. "Is it true that demons transport people to any place in the blink of an eye?" He said while smiling, "Where do you want to go?" I told him the house of the wicked, Amar, the devil who carried the olive branch. In the blink of an eye, I found myself in front of Amar's house. Dajan had taken on his human form. When we stood in front of the entrance to the house, and before I headed for the door, Dajan grabbed me by the arms and said to me in a low voice, "What do you intend to do?" I told him, "I don't know." He said, "I have an idea." I said, "What is your idea?" He said, "Amar is not an ordinary magician, and you and I combined will not be able to do it." I said, "I just want to talk to him." He said, "If I go in with you, he, Amar, will doubt us, and if I don't go in with you, he will ask you about me, and you will get confused and expose us." I said, "What is the solution in your opinion?" He said, "Freeze me." I said, "What?" He said, "Like I told you, freeze me." I said, "Why should I do that?" He said, "If you freeze me, he will see me frozen in front of him, and he will trust that you are still my enemy." I asked him again, "What is the purpose of that?" He said, "He freed me at night while he was sleeping, and before that, an olive branch was placed near his head." I said, "Where can I get an olive branch?" In a moment, he extended his hand and gave me the branch and said, "Come and promise us tonight." I entered Amar after Dajan froze, and he hugged me, welcomed me, asked how I was, and said while laughing, "I see that your companion is back beside you.